Hi everyone, it's Clive. Welcome to my latest brewing video. Long story short, my boiler is packed in, so for this video I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try a brewing kit and then maybe in the future come back to full grain brewing. So let's see how we get on. I've got a brewing kit ready, so let's have a look inside. Before we have a look in the brewing kit, just a quick potted history. I'm a great believer in making notes when I'm brewing, and this is my first one, and as you can see, detailed notes. And what we've got here, this is my very first home brew. This was actually a kit, so this is Woodford's Norfolk Wherry, and this is before I actually acquired my all grain brewing equipment, and I've now since then filled 2 books, and luckily I'm just on to my 3rd one, so I haven't started this one yet, so this will be my kit brewing book. So this is the brewing kit. You may be familiar with Mangrove Jacks. I mean, I've been using their yeast for a while. This is for an American IPA. This one was about 20 quid. I bought this from a brewing shop called Love Brewing in Chesterfield yesterday. So it's already made up. So essentially what we have in here will be the concentrate. So we're skipping out all the boiling stages of the brewing process. So we're going to do a sort of unboxing of the kit. As always, my primary fermentation bin is filled up with sterilising solution. I've got a couple of jugs as well, and in here I've got my trusty stirring spoon and the airlock as well. So I carefully snipped off the top of the pack, and already that's sort of cut into the pouch of concentrate inside, so I didn't realise that was going to happen. I thought the pouch would be a little bit further down, so a little bit sticky. I've got some instructions, I've got some hot pellets, and I've also got some yeast. So I'm going to have a good read of the instructions to see what we do next. So the first thing I've got to do is squeeze out sort of concentrate into my sterilised fermentation container. It looks a bit sticky. It looks like treacle. So this is the syrup squeezed out of the pouch, and you can see how much there is in the bottom of the container. And I used a rolling pin to squeeze out the rest of the pack. Just noticed this as well, it said extra fermentables required. I sort of hadn't noticed this bit. Luckily I do actually have some dextrose, so I'll see if it's needed later on in the brewing process. So that caught me a little bit unawares. In order to maximise the amount of sugar I get into my brew, I've decided to wash out this pouch. A bit sticky, but basically the instructions said add 3 litres of boiled water, so I'm sort of using that to wash out the pouch into here. Luckily the other brewing kit had 1 kilo of glucose, so I'm going to use this to add to this particular brew. That's very pleasing. I've managed to wash out pretty much all the concentrate and added 3 litres of the total of boiled water to here. Now I just need to top up with cold water up to the 23 litre mark. Just added 1 kilo of glucose powder as well into here, so I'll continue topping up with water and then give it a good stir. So that's topped at 23 litres. Now I just need to give the whole thing a good stir, and I think looking at it you can see how gloopy it is in there. This is going to take a little bit of stirring to get all of that sort of concentrate sort of dissolved into this water. So you can see it's still pretty gloopy in there. Can you see? Yeah, so that needs to be dispersed and dissolved into this thing. Well, I've given this a good stir. I'm going to just check the temperature before I add the yeast, and it's below 20, so it says in the instructions to be below 25. No problem, so let's add the yeast next. So I've used Mangrove Jack's US West Coast yeast M44 before. Normally I hydrate the yeast, but it's just saying put straight in, and that's what the instructions say here, just sprinkle directly. So I'm just going to try that, see what difference that makes, because I normally hydrate the yeast prior to adding. So you can see I've just added the yeast. I'm just going to give that a stir so it's dispersed throughout and then I'm going to seal it up. There you go, that's the yeast added, or the lid sealed and the airlock added. So the instructions say leave that for 7 days, check the gravity, and then maybe add some dry hops at that point. Well, it's not been an easy ride with this particular beer. As you can see, this is the primary fermenter, and I've moved it to my shed. It's been in there for about 12 days, and it's still, the gravity, which is 1.019, is far too high still for bottling. I'm going away for a few weeks now, so I need to leave it in somewhere a little bit cooler, and it'll be fine apparently in a fermenter for up to about 6 weeks, so I'll be back well before then. So I'm going to then bottle up at that point. And as it's, you know, nearly November, I've put a little temperature sort of gauge which will monitor the min-max temperatures in the shed while I'm away. So let's see how we get on. Okay, this has been in the primary fermenter for a little bit longer than anticipated. When I first started this beer kit, it took a little bit longer for the gravity to come down, so I thought, well, I'm going away for a little while on a trip, and I'll come back, so it'll be okay for about sort of 4 weeks or so in here in the shed. And you can see I've got the temperature range here, so that seems okay. Sort of vary between 2.8 and 23. I suspect this never got to those extremes. However, when I came back, I went down on COVID, so it's been another week. So this has been quite a long time since I first started. We're looking upwards of 6 weeks. So yeah, quite a long time. Hopefully it's going to be okay. I've had a quick pop and had a look. It looks absolutely fine in there. I'm going to transfer it to a pressure barrel, primarily as a sort of like a holding stage before I bottle. So it'll transfer into here, overnight, and then I'll transfer it into some bottles which have been sterilising for a long time. So let's crack on. Well, that seems to have worked really well. What I did with the siphon wand and this tube, I filled them completely full of water and then put the wand into the primary and then let go of the end of this tube, and then the water dragged the beer in. So there's a tiny little bit of water in here, but that won't be too bad. You can see I've also taken off a couple of measuring cylinders worth of beer to do the gravity check as well. I'm just assuming that it's fine, so we'll find out. There we go, decent barrel's worth, and I shall bottle it up tomorrow. Okay, so the next day I've got 40 bottles which I've sterilised and thoroughly rinsed out. I've attached a bottling wand onto the tap of the barrel. I'm going to start filling up, and I'll show you how this bottling wand works as well. I've also got a solution of brewing sugar, and basically what I'm going to do, I've made this solution such that I can add about 10 or 15 mils. I've got a little syringe, and I'll add that 10 or 15 mils to each bottle, and that acts as the priming sugar to kick-start the secondary fermentation stage. And obviously when the bottle is then sealed up with a cap, that secondary fermentation then converts the bit of sugar left in the beer into alcohol, also creates CO2 which then pressurises and sort of carbonates the beer at the same time, and that's bottle conditioning. Turn on the tap, you'll see that what happens, it will fill up the wand, but it won't come out the bottom. You see? Because that little bar at the bottom acts as a sort of lock. But when I put the bottle here, that bar gets depressed up. You can hear the beer going into the bottle. So you just need to keep an eye on that, because what you want to do is leave about an inch at the top, and that creates a little gap known as the ullage, which you need for the fermentation of the beer. So I'll just get to about here and then take that away, and you can see, well, maybe you can just see about an inch at the top there. There you go, first bottle done. 40 bottles filled. All remains now to be done is to clamp on the crown caps using this the crown capper, and that's done. Okay everyone, that's the end of the video. This is my experiment in using a kit beer. Let's see how it turns out. Cheers everyone, happy brewing.